You have been wearing these popular men's fragrances for far too long and you are tired of them. You are looking for better scents and you want to smell more unique. Today we have 7 different popular men's fragrances that a lot of people have certain gripes with. I'm going to recommend alternatives to them that aren't clones but have a similar feeling to them but still improve on the overall idea in some way. You'll see what I mean now in a second. Let's begin. Creed Aventus. A fragrance that used to be much more popular back in the early days. Over the years, a billion clones have come out for it. It had its batch variation issues. A lot of people had some gripes with Creed as a brand in general. So it's not gotten as much hype as it used to. It doesn't smell as rich as it used to. It's not as long lasting as it used to be either. And it's probably overpriced for what it is now in today's markets. Smoky pineapple, birchwood, that is iconic. Everyone knows its DNA. It's versatile, clean, wears your daily signature. A little bit mature as well, I would say, the Creed Aventus DNA. If you want something that's much more worth your money, I will say go for Sospiro Vibrato. It has that similar feeling of having a smoky citrus in there with very clean, sharp, bright musks in here that give it beastliness. It smells a little bit green, a little bit powdery. It sort of has that Tiger DNA, which I kind of feel like took the success of Aventus and made something for its own. Anyways, I feel like it still was inspired in some way by Aventus, although it's not a clone. I feel like Sospiro Vibrato has a similar feeling of Aventus, but it actually has that luxury to justify that price tag. It has that beastliness, 12 hours longevity with a medium projection at least. I think anyone who spends their money on Sospiro Vibrato will be a lot more happy with that purchase. Dior Sauvage Eau de Toilette. A lot of people say this is overdone, too popular, and it's a little bit annoying for some people. Metallic, screechy, too much ambroxan, synthetic, etc., etc. Dior Sauvage is popular for a reason. I think it works. And I do think it still has a place in all people's collections, but I understand why people want to move on from this. This is very blue, lavender-based, spicy, woody, and versatile, which is a good thing about this fragrance, and long-lasting also. My alternative is Lafayette Street by Bond No. 9. This is a big ambroxan fragrance as well, but this has a much nicer variation of it. It's not as synthetic as Sauvage. This is still very versatile, very mass appealing, and long-lasting also. So it's not a clone of Sauvage at all, but I do feel like this is a very hard fragrance to hate, and I feel like it has a very similar functionality to Sauvage. It has more playfulness in this scent compared to Sauvage, so it still smells masculine, but it's a bit more playful with that fruity green apple note in there. It has that spice in here as well, with that coriander, so I feel like it has some overlap with Sauvage, but I think this is better. This can be a tough ask for the price, so it depends if you can find it on discounters. It's quite rare, but I will say sample this first. If you like that mass appeal, that versatility of Sauvage, you want something a little bit higher level, try this through a sample is my recommendation. 37.9% of people who watch School of Scent are subscribed to us. If you guys really want to see our channel grow, go ahead and click subscribe. Let's get that number to 40%. Thank you. Bleu de Chanel. This is a classic. I love this blue fragrance, but a lot of people say the performance is rubbish. It's not worth the price because of that. I still get 8 hours of my eau de parfum. I think it's something I'll always have in my collection, but this is deep, blue, woody, ambery, with some nice citruses to balance it up top, and a slight incense note in here as well to make it darker. This is a masterpiece, but hey, if you have problems with that performance, you still want a longer lasting, versatile scent, then go for Arabian Oud Signature Profumo. I've said it before, this is the Middle Eastern Bleu de Chanel. Not that they're clones at all, they're not clones. This is an original creation, but this has a similar feeling to Bleu de Chanel, a similar functionality, a similar thickness. This is sort of like a dark, deep, woody, amber signature scent also, but this is more Middle Eastern smelling, and this is a big cardamom and ambroxan bomb. Similar to Lafayette Street, this is a very nice ambroxan, a nice variety of it, but this is very handsome. This is sweet, spicy, warm, inviting, alluring, yet very balanced and versatile. And also the performance here is fantastic. 12 hours longevity with a medium projection. This will sort out your performance issues with Bleu de Chanel. Fair enough, this is not as complex as Bleu de Chanel, but I say if you want an alternative, you want to move on from Bleu de Chanel, this is probably a really good starting point. Acqua di Gio. I'm holding the Parfum here, but actually I wanted to hold Profumo, but I don't have my bottle anymore. But most guys are stuck on Acqua di Gio Profumo, which I think is a good scent. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like a lot of guys need to move on from it. Sooner or later, it's going to be something guys have to move on from. But hey, I know why people love it. Acqua di Gio is a very iconic DNA, citrusy, aquatic. The Profumo adds a nice darkness, a balance in there, so it makes it a day signature that can also be worn in the nighttime with that added patchouli and incense. Great flanker, don't get me wrong. But if you want a dark, aquatic, that's a bit more expensive smelling, go for this. That is Xerjoff 40 Knots, my baby. I always give this a 10 out of 10, a very unique aquatic scent, one of the most underrated releases from Xerjoff. Salty, aquatic, green, woody perfumery with an intense, slightly powdery amber notes in here. Some people say this smells like baby powder. I disagree, but hey, whatever, to each their own. I blindballed this and it worked out for me very luckily, and I actually didn't like it at first, my first wearing, and then I grew to love this more and more. I will say definitely sample this, don't do what I did. Although you can find it at such a steal of a price nowadays online, I will say you should sample this and see if you like this kind of style, but this is more expensive smelling than Acqua di Gio Profumo. This still has the maturity that Profumo had. This has fantastic longevity, 12 hours plus, with a medium to loud projection. 2 sprays is all you need, so a 50 ml will last you a very long time. One of my favorite fragrances ever, definitely check this out. The original YSL La Nuit de l'Homme, a romantic, woody, amber cardamom fragrance. One of the sexiest cardamom scents out there with notoriously bad longevity. Really made famous by Jeremy. It was one of his fragrances for life or something like that.
It's not powerful, mega powerful, but for a date, it's timeless. Oh, it's so good.
And we all know that the older batches used to perform better. 4 hours longevity is what you're generally going to get with the original La Nuit. I always say get Bleu Électrique, the flanker, but that is also discontinued. I don't know why, but that was a fantastic, more versatile version of the scent, more long lasting as well. However, I will say if you want a superior La Nuit de l'Homme, in certain ways, go for this. That would be La Nuit de l'Homme Le Parfum. I actually used to have this in my collection. I think I gave it away once I got Bleu Électrique, but now that Bleu Électrique has got discontinued, now this has gone back to being the alternative to the original. This is different to Bleu Électrique. This is a flanker that you can tell is very much within the line. It fits very nicely, but this is darker, more bad boy-esque, more spicy, intense with peppery notes in here, and more fruity as well. This is sort of like if La Nuit de l'Homme got CH Men Privé. Although they don't have similar notes, it's not a boozy fragrance, it just smells like a bad boy kind of scent that would be worn by a guy who wears a leather jacket, for example. This is very sexy, playful. It is very suited to the evening, but at the same time, it is very balanced. I think you could actually get away with this in the daytime, but you will smell very sexy. I don't think this is a professional scent, but if you're in a casual environment, I think you can get away with this as your signature. You can wear it pretty much all year round, which is pretty good. So very useful versatility, but let's talk about performance. Is it better? Yes, not by a huge amount though. Maybe 6 hours longevity. Actually, let's say 6 to 8 hours. I think people go nose blind to this. This is longer lasting than you think, and when I thought this was gone off me, then I would just turn my head and just get a whiff of it. I realize it's still there and it's projecting still a fair amount much later on into the duration. So yes, I will say this is a 6 to 8 hour long lasting fragrance with at least 3 out of 4 seasons versatility. Maybe all 4 seasons you can rock this, depending on how heavy you go on the trigger. So very good flanker, very underrated, do not sleep on this. Dolce&Gabbana, the One Eau de Parfum. Balanced tobacco, ginger, amber, a very nice, safe date night fragrance, a beginner friendly date night fragrance, similar to La Nuit de l'Homme, but a lot of guys say they have terrible performance. I get at least 6 hours, but a lot of guys say they get less. So if you want a better performing upgrade, let's go for this. And that will be Maison Margiela's Jazz Club. Again, not a huge improvement in performance, but you'll get at least an extra few hours. You get at least 6 hours with this. This is boozy, tobacco, spicy, very complex, very sexy. Again, an amber-based fragrance that smells masculine, even though it's technically unisex. One of the best, actually the best fragrance from Maison Margiela. I've never had any doubts about that. This is, like its name suggests, like a jazz club, like very intense, playful, fun, creative. I really like this scent, one of the best evening scents ever made. If it doesn't give you the best performance improvement from Dolce&Gabbana The One, at the very least you're upgrading your scent profiles in your collection. This is more creative, more niche-esque in my opinion. And lastly, Versace Eros, the Eau de Toilette. This is a release from 2012. I think it's time for us to move on. I've kind of hated on this fragrance from day one. I had my bottle and I loved it. I gave it a few wearings, got bored, gave it away. I actually got bored of this so quickly. That's my issue with Eros. It's an apple mint vanilla fragrance that becomes very heavy on the vanilla, a very clumsy dry down in my opinion. It's just very one-dimensional, not too interesting. It's balanced, it's sexy, it's good for teenagers in my opinion, but after that, I think you can move on. And now, since it's been 12 years since it came out, yes, you can go for the Parfum, which I think is the current best blue bottle concentration. You guys know I'm gonna be reviewing Versace Eros Energy, either you are seeing this video before that or after that review. But overall, I think this is an outdated scent, at least this concentration. I think to move on, to get a similar idea but more modern, go for Valentino Uomo Coral Fantasy. Some guys like to use Versace Eros Eau de Toilette as their signature scent, use all year round. I say go for Coral Fantasy as your signature instead. This has a similar idea, having a fruity apple note in here, a red apple as opposed to a green one, and it smells very sweet, musky, woody, ambery. It has a tobacco note in here that I don't really get that much of. Apparently some people do. I think this is just very sexy, a very similar idea to Versace Eros, but more modern, a different style because it's the Valentino style. This is a very sexy line in general, the Born in Roma line. This is mass appealing, not the best performing line in general. The Coral Fantasy I have here is maybe 6 hours longevity with medium projection. It's not as beastly as Eros, but it's incredibly sexy. You definitely should check it out at the very least anyways, and it's very versatile as well. So I give this big props, a great modern scent. And that concludes this video today, guys. Do you think I'm being unfair to these popular fragrances? Do you think I'm forcing the issue of trying to get guys to move on from them? Or do you think they're gonna be timeless classics that people are gonna stick to forever? Which other popular fragrances do you wish I'd covered? Maybe you wanna give your own alternatives to some popular fragrances. Let us know in the comments down below, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to check out our previous video to alternatives to expensive fragrances. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.